Hello and welcome here to the Hawks Nest for a very special show of, I'm going to call it behind enemy lines, but it's more like behind friendly lines today. We're in the off season. There is no enemies. Nobody's playing for nothing. We're all cool here. And I'm having my guy back in the house here, Coach Evans, who was so kind this year I pulled him away from, he had an hour. I took him away from his wife for an extra hour during the season. I was, I know she's off camera, like, come on. So he's kind enough to hang with me. Had a great discussion, a really smart football mind here from Sip to Tally Films. How you doing, Coach?
Doing well, man. Not heartbroken anymore. I've gotten over it. I just wish the Chiefs fans would leave me alone so we
Oh, come
so we
on
can
now.
move
Back
on.
off. Back off. You guys got championships. No need to gloat, okay? Don't be sore winners on this type of stuff, Chiefs fans. Let's not. Come on, please. But I was worried about that. I thought maybe I'd get you up on the screen today, and it'd be maybe you over a little bit huddled over, still in the corner. Still kind of just still trying to come to. And I wouldn't have blamed you the least bit. By the way, we've all
Mhm.
been there, so no shame in that. Well, we're going to talk today with you, Coach, a little bit. Before we do, folks, of course, do what we do here. What we do here is when we have a guest on, we go over their YouTube channel, Sip to Tally Films. Type that in there. You can also see in the description section of this video and sub on up. Do that a favor. We definitely going to have Coach here back on again. We might do some draft talk and discussion too, because we both love to dive into the nuts and bolts of the drafts, and that's certainly on the horizon. But let's start off with that game a little bit. I know it has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about a little bit today with McDonald, but I'm just interested to pick your brain. Did you what happened in this game? What went wrong really from your bottom line as Ravens fan on that loss?
I think the team as a whole panicked offensively. The fact that they gave up those 2 early drives and like they couldn't do anything with Kelsey at first, they kind of got out of the game plan. They basically threw the game plan out the window and just went to throwing the ball all over the place. And they took away certain aspects of the passing game, certain aspects that I think our quarterback really wanted to hit. And he wouldn't do what Pat did. Pat basically took what the defense gave him. Pat was
Mm-hmm.
checked down Tommy with the exception of maybe he made a down the field pass to Kelsey and then the last pass of the game. But other than that, it was 10 yards and in and let guys try to make people miss. And we just didn't do that, or even try to run the ball in that second half. We had 6 carries by running backs the whole game, which is ludicrous for a team that has the best rushing attack in the NFL. But it was heartbreaking, and I used to see some of your streams, and you'd be like 4, 5, 6 hours, and I wonder like, how can he be on that long? But that day I did 7 hours.
It's exactly. You feel me on that. It's what, especially when you're dealing with so many different various opinions, and then people come in with harsh takes, or people miss it, or people write on it. You're like, yeah, that's you go through the full gamut when you do those long streams, and that's part of why I love it so much, is they end up coming away throw so much. But I can only imagine how crazy the stream was, and you were probably trying to, but as I have to sometimes, you sometimes put on the psychologist thing, and like, okay, get on the couch, we got this, fair. While you're still really pissed and angry about it,
Mm-hmm.
you want to be on the couch right there next to him going, yeah, tell me why this is going to be okay. What is so as tough as it was from the offense, I just wondered from your standpoint, it seemed like the Chiefs blitzed up Lamar. Maybe they got him into audible checks. Then the audible checks seemed to float then to the 9 routes. And then a lot, I mean, it wasn't a lot, but it was just like 4 key moments, it seemed like, of those 9s over the top that he just couldn't put the ball on the right spot. What would come down to you, I guess, of what they should have done in that, or what was that? Do you think kind of an accurate assessment of what happened there?
That's fairly accurate, but there were some intermediate throws that I felt like were there for the taking, and maybe even some short stuff because a lot of those deeper routes they weren't third and long, they were first down where the check down or something intermediate or even running the ball could have sufficed. So we just put ourselves in a lot of third and longs, and when you do that versus Spags, you already know what's coming, and you got to get it out quick, and your best option then is to throw it short, and hopefully they can break a tackle. But the thing is, with Kansas City, they got 2 darn good cornerbacks out there, and it ain't like we had the greatest. Like we got 2 decent receivers.
Yeah.
So they put McDuffie on one, and they had Snead on the other. So they pretty much had kind of clamped our guys up, and then we just didn't hit the Likely or Andrews or whoever else the third person was. We just didn't go to him like I felt like we should have. And again, not running the ball. It was a couple of times we play action. Their linebackers didn't move. It's like they laughed. I mean, y'all not running the ball, so we're not going to even take read steps. And they went straight into their drops.
Yeah. And then you didn't have Lamar using his legs very much the game on top of it. So it just got kind of compounded by all that. Well, yeah, the flip side of this, the defense started out, like you said, it seemed like Reed stacked the fronts up, and we're going to speak to this because it's going to directly, of course, correspond with our discussion today, is that the Chiefs went up against our new head coach, your former defensive coordinator, McDonald, and had that 17 points in the first half. Seemed like they were trying to go to bubble screens and flat routes, sort of to take the teeth out of the blitz a little bit, it seemed like. Is that what they were doing, do you think? Or what was the intention behind them running that?
For what I saw, and I didn't study their side as hard as I did the offensive side, but anytime they had a numbers advantage in the flats, they just flipped the screen out there and allowed their guys to make plays. Whether it was Kelsey breaking tackles, whether it was Rashee Rice breaking tackles, they ran a lot of screens, they ran a lot of stuff in the flats, and they didn't try to push the ball down the field. They didn't make Pat Mahomes hold the ball a lot, but then in the second half, our coverage came up and was able to take away some of those shorter throws. And part of that stuff was we were tackling bad the first half too. So they would take those short throws and make a guy miss or run through a tackle and get first downs and extend drives. We tackled better toward the middle of the second quarter and the entire second half. So that took the short throws out. And then the defensive line was able to get a little heat on Pat. And they forced him to, throw some balls away or scramble and run a little bit or scramble and throw it away. So the second half, they made a great adjustments. And I still think to hold them to 17 points should have won a game.
That's I'm putting a video together for the McDonald right now, and it's literally one of my finishing points on the video is that if you do that bottom line, as a defense against the Patrick Mahomes, you look over your offense and special teams and go, "We did our part, boys.
Right,
you're up." A
lot of our fans were upset because Kelsey had 11 catches in the first half. None of that matters. They scored 17 points. We should score more than 17 points.
And that first drive was the worst kind of thing because really you had pretty good coverage there in both two main quote unquote balls. The biggest two balls he hits on all day. It's basically trust throws. Me and this guy have been playing together for 7 years. We have a telekinesis thing going on. I mean, the back shoulder throw was not planned. It was like, it's just, how do you combat that when they got that kind of chemistry? It was like Rodgers when he had Devontae at times, where it's like, what are you going to do? Those guys like it. There's no. That's just kind of where you just tip your hat. That's what we're talking about, keeping to 17 points. And most of the rest of the catches were just kind of. I mean, it wasn't as a big impact as those two were in the game.
And Kyle was all over him for the touchdown. It's this one little small box that Kyle couldn't defend, and Pat put it in that small little box. And sometimes I always make this analogy. Sometimes, no matter how good you play defense, the best offense gonna get you. And I use Steph Curry as a analysis. Like you can dribble, you can guard him, you can stay in front of him. But when he take 2 steps back and shoot the ball from during the half court, what can you do?
Yeah,
you didn't play bad defense, right? He didn't play bad defense. He just played better offense. So
not even looking at it as he shoots it, turn it and flip it, and walking away, not even doing the whole like action movie thing where they're not watching the explosion. Yeah, I
the crowd.
I agree. And there's not a lot of guys that can do that too. There's not a lot of combinations that are set up to do that. So, I think that being the only time it really got you in that game for the most part, to my eyes, the coverage up front you talk about, was it shorter coverage? Was it man coverage, or you tightened up the zones down into that second half a little bit?
A little bit of both, but he did a better job of disguising. That second half was the first time I really saw Pat Mahomes like he was confused with what was going on. Like he would think one thing and it'd be something else. And it's hard to do him like that. It's really hard. And you would see him trying to, he figured out what the coverage is, but by then the heat's on. Or he's scrambling, then he realized, it's whatever coverages is. And by then it's too late. So the second half, they did a good job of doing that. But I think they did decide to come up and just not give so many free releases, because all they was doing was just flipping the ball out to what they had 2 versus 3, they just flip it out. Whether it was Kelsey Rice or whoever, and just let them do their stuff, their deal in the screen game.
It was literally that. It was flat routes and bubbles, and just they were hammering it. It was pretty wild to watch. But I guess I'd even say it was okay smart. Once they took it down, there was no secondary approach from the offense, so it was okay. It's still, but we buried the lead on this. Let's lead this with this. Mike Macdonald. He's now going to be our new Seahawks head coach. And he made that adjustment, as you said. I think it really impressed many of us Hawk fans at that time. I mean, that's one of those things you're watching what Ben Johnson was doing against the Niner defense. Like, ooh. But then you're seeing this and you go, and so we definitely got big starry eyes for Mike after, even though, to the Seahawks fans' credit, they go, no, 17 points, Mahomes, let's go. What are your feelings with losing Mike, us taking him on, kind of your just general perspective on it?
First off, I'm going to say this. Like, you all have graduated to team 2 for me.
Ooh, let's go.
So
Let's
you already
go.
knew how I felt about the jerseys that you don't like, that
Oh,
I
yeah.
do. So, and I'll be interested in keeping up with Mike and what he's done, and just covering the team a little bit more and just doing more film study on him. That's the first thing. But to answer your question, if we had lost just Mike by himself, I would have been like, okay, we can come through this and we'll be straight. But now is a huge question mark, because not only do we lose Mike, we lost the DB coach, we lost the D-line coach, and we promoted our linebacker coach to DC, who's 31. And not saying age is an issue, because Mike's only 36, but is you got to have chemistry.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, how can they build that chemistry? And it can be done. It's just a question mark in my brain. Can they build that chemistry with losing so much from the leadership position, and what they potentially may lose from the player position too? Because we got 29 free agents, maybe
How's the cap space?
7 right now. Only 7, but once they
that's
come off the books,
7D,
that'll
but
go
7.
up. Yeah, once
Okay.
they officially come off the books, it'll go up. And I always have to put this out there. I'm not a cap dude. The numbers mess with my brain because the cap is cap. So once they come off, I think we'll have more. But right now, it's sitting like when the season ended, I think it was like 5 or 7. But
Okay.
once all the contracts come off and whatnot, I think we'll have maybe 20 or 30, maybe even 40.
Okay.
But
That
you're
sounds
looking
about
at
right.
a guy, one of 2 guys is probably going to get 20 million from us. Whether it's Queen or Matabike, and it's probably looking like it's going to be Matabike, because you probably can't pay 2 linebackers $20 million.
Well, now that we're already in your house and you're giving us stuff,
That's
you
what
mentioned
I'm hoping it does.
you mentioned Patrick Queen. And I'm glad to hear again, we're of like mind on this type of stuff, because I was telling my people, they go, they're going to sign him. And I said, well, they've got already Roquan on the big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't really got a 3-tech sitting back behind Matabuke that you like as much. Solid depth, but Matabuke, obviously, right as he's about to hear it here, you go, okay, well, I'm probably franchising Matabuke, and then I probably let Queen walk, or sign Matabuke to the monster contract extension, one of the two. So you're seeing it maybe the same way, or maybe they can fit both.
Yeah, I don't see if they can fit both. Eric DaCosta is a genius, but I just don't. As much as I want Queen to stay, because that's one of my favorite players. His name is even in my Twitter name, PQ Stan. But I just, from a business standpoint, I can't see how you pay Roquan 20 and you pay Queen 20, and you're able to build around it. I just don't see it.
I always look around the league too we did this with the safety situation when we decided to pay both Quandre and Jamal. And I looked around the league and I went, okay, that seems a little weird. Let me see who else is doing this around the league. Nobody's doing this around the league. So it's another thing with the middle linebackers. They're getting harder and harder to get paid. Both teams will pay one, but have both guys get paid up at that high water mark. And it's going to be 17 mil per Patrick this off season. I mean, if guys like Tremont Edmonds last year are making that, Jermaine Pratt are making that, then should not Queen Midal be also up at around that slice of pie?
He also got the stamp of All Pro beside his name too. That's going to help in his negotiations.
And you feel like with Queen did McDonald, like, the narrative could be looking at Queen on the surface of it. I check PFF scores on him. I look at a little bit of his tape early on. I heard what from Ravens fans talking about him early on. It would seem like he is one of a couple of collection of players there with the Ravens that when he came there, Matabuke, a guy that we're talking about as well, that's like this, that there was a jump and the leap in their game when McDonald comes into board there. Is that accurate?
So the first 2 years, it was wink, and it was blitz heavy. It was a lot of man coverage, and Queen himself wasn't the greatest player at the time either. Because keep in mind, when he came into the league, he had only been playing linebacker like maybe 2 years. He came to LSU as a running back.
Well,
And then he only started at LSU after the season, that magical run they had the national championship, he wasn't the starter when the season started. The guy that was the starter plays for the Browns. I can't remember his name, but Queen started like game 3, and then he was the starter from there on out.
Joker.
So no, it wasn't Joker. I forget he don't even play much for the Browns. He got drafted, but he didn't play much for the
Joker
Browns.
was Notre Dame, right?
But he had to learn the position. Still learning the position because it's a new position, and then learning the NFL game, and then the way Wink ran his defense, it put a lot on the Mike, and he really is not a Mike. He was a smaller, faster guy. He really wasn't a guy you sit in the middle of your defense and bump heads in the A gaps. He just didn't have the bricks in his pocket to do that. So he played bad. He missed a lot of tackles. A lot of Ravens fans was on his case, didn't like the fact, they get rid of him. He sucks, whatever. I was one of the few people that kind of stood in the gap for him. And so, the year Roquan came, so it would have been his 3rd season, he was playing a lot better, which was Mike's 1st season. He was playing a lot better. And a lot of people, a lot of Ravens fans would tell you he only got better when Roquan came. That is complete and utter BS.
Okay.
He was already playing at a different level. He stopped I can say he stopped. His missed tackles went down. He had a better grasp for the game. And then when Roquan came and they just sat Roe at Mike, and he could be the other off-ball guy, he flourished. And I'm not saying Roquan didn't have an impact on him getting better. It definitely did. But the people that were saying he sucked until Roquan got there, that's not true.
Yeah.
100% not true. He was already coming into his own as a player as Roquan got there. And then getting a leader like Roquan kind of helped him see the different nuances of how he needed to prepare, how hard he needed to play, and just Roquan being just a straight up motivator.
Yeah.
Holding people accountable. And then the whole system changed when Mike came in, because Mike said on his opening press conference, everybody has to know what everybody has to do. That way you can hold each other accountable. Because if you're an edge guy and you don't know what the safety's supposed to be doing, how can you get on this case when you mess up? So everybody got to know everybody's job so we can hold each other accountable, which also adds to the fact that you got guys that can do multiple things.
Yeah. Well, and that's where it seems like he's found this weird magical combination as McDonald in taking guys and going, I want to maximize your talent, but then I'm fitting it really fluidly into my quote unquote scheme, which seems pretty fluid in itself, but that, most coaches are so rigid. You should mention Wink. And I was reading up some stories on him about how the players would complain about, like, trying to make every play perfect, trying to have every guy get to his perfect check. And too many guys making too many individual checks leads you to doom, right? Because that's miscommunication. And I saw it this way. Well, I saw it that way. And then all the fans are like, what the hell happened? What a horrible defensive call. It's like, well, is that kind of that? Yeah. And I mean, sorry.
I felt like that when Mike first got there, as far as trying to teach that happened some to us, specifically the Miami Dolphins game 2 years ago. And because we had a huge lead on Miami. In the second half, they just smoked us. And there were a lot of busted coverages between Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams, a lot of guys that were new. Then I think back to it. Mike was new. Mike was technically a rookie that year. So he had to learn. That was only his second game or maybe third game as an NFL defensive coordinator. And so from that game on, he got better and better and better. And we finished the season. We made the playoffs with Snoop as the quarterback. We was a inch from diving over the goal line for winning a playoff game with Snoop as the quarterback, because the defense was just that good against the Bengals.
So is it and I know I love with you're putting together a variety of reasons rather than I'm looking sometimes and trying, well, there's a magic bullet. Maybe this is the magic bullet thing. Is it just that McDonald is really, is he the Sean McVay equivalent of the defensive side of the ball? Or was it that he's a really good defensive coordinator who's been given this great amount of talent by DaCosta?
Combination of both. I think it's a combination of both, because watching film and me watching it after the game, and I can stop and pause and see what's going on, at my leisure, there were some calls I'm like, what is this? And I'm thinking, like, how would I teach somebody how to read what's going on the screen right here? Because I got to pause and I don't know what's going on. So how can you do it in live motion with bodies flying at you? And it's crazy, because he can have anybody to come from anywhere, or he can have multiple guys that end up at the line of scrimmage drop. He dropping D tackles to take away your hot routes. He
two of them.
the thing with Mike is, and this is the mantra for Mike, what you see pre-snap is not what you're gonna get post-snap.
Mm-hmm.
If you go up there thinking, okay, then cover 3 and you snap the ball, I promise you it won't be cover 3. I promise you
Yeah.
that. If you
Yeah.
check, you see, you say one safety, okay, it's cover 3, I'm gonna run 4 verticals. You snap that ball, it might be man free, or it might be cover 4. Or anything might happen. It would
He'll
not
go
be what you think from pre-snap.
and he'll go to any coverages, right? It's not a matter of he's on cover 3, cover 2, cover 3, cover 2.
Nope,
It's the full mixture in there. So
he'll match some stuff. He'll go man. He'll in and out some stuff. He runs the gambit of it all, and I think he has it broken down to where they all understand. They all on the same page. That's the key part of it. With anything, the communication is on point, and however he teaches it, they picked it up. They picked it up because then he had a selfless. I'm gonna go back to Pat Queen, a selfless Pat Queen. Pat Queen would set so many picks for defensive linemen that it was crazy. And what I mean by picks is when they run the TE stunts or whatever, but he run them from the linebacker. So Pat would go take on a guard so the defensive tackle could come off. He got to the point where Pat had in one play, Pat had a clear line to the quarterback. He was so selfless, he just decided to not take that sack, go hit the guard, and let the other guy come around and get the pressure.
Wow.
And he did a lot of that with Roquan, mostly with Queen, because Queen was really good at it. And then you can get a stunt with almost anybody.
Oh yeah. It's cool already when you're dealing with the defense and the linemen are trying to figure out their pre-check calls as it is. You toss a stunt on top of that. It's like, come on, this is unfair. Or as you said, it becomes impossible to read prior to the snap. And that's what it's a little bit of the homerism and wanting it to be, obviously, because it's my new head coach and I want this to be the reality of it. But you'll back this up. We talked about this midweek before we knew, when we were just previewing the matchup. And I told you at the time, this is where I think we look at the offenses and defenses over the last 20 years. Now offenses is just run away with it. And they're like trying to lap the field at times, where there is this room for the defense to take a monstrous step forward and sort of not maybe catch up fully to the offense, but at least get a little bit closer than they've been. Right. Do you see this as being that type of defense that could accomplish that this is the one to do that? Or is there another defense you think is more likely to be that one heading into the future?
I think,
or not.
I think his defense has because you asked us the previous question about him being a McVay, and you know how everybody falls off the McVay tree. Yeah. I think you're going to see that happen this year. You're going to see some variation of what we ran last year with a few guys their own spin in it. And I'll almost guarantee you the Titans have a better defense because they pulled the defensive backs coach, made him defensive coordinator. The Dolphins will have a better defense. They took our defensive line coach, made him that defensive coordinator. You guys will have a better defense. I'm sure of that because he'll probably, I ain't gonna say micromanage it, but he may even call the defense for you guys if he don't find, somebody he's cool with. And just think about our roster versus you guys' roster. You look at the secondary. Your secondary is pretty darn good at the cornerback position. We kind of had bodies out there. And we had two guys. We had Brandon Stevens that had his best season as a corner, and it was okay. The guy that should have been number one corner kind of regressed. Now, obviously, we had Kyle. Kyle did his thing. And we had a bunch of role players that just come up big. Geno Stone, who's a backup to Marcus Williams, was number 2 in the league in interceptions. We had Arthur Marlette, who I didn't know of before this season, didn't know he was an NFL player, played significant snaps versus with us or whatever, and he was playing opposite of Kyle because we had DBs in and out. And you just think about it, we did that with not really good cornerback play. You guys got good cornerback play, and you got a guy that I think is going to be a superstar in the mic, and it ain't Jamal Adams. I think Diggs is going to go wild in this system. I think Diggs could be you guys, Kyle Hamilton.
Quandre Diggs. See, I think it's going to be, he might see him that way. I don't, because I haven't got a read yet on how he sees the players, but my feeling is that we're going to probably more likely than not move on from both of our starting safeties this offseason. So I think that Jamal and Quandre are both going to be moved on. Quandre's in the last year of his deal, and they're doing it because we're not sitting on a much cap space right now.
Yeah, I know.
So yeah, and so we've got to clear cap space out, and it's not that I don't think Quandre could maybe work way better in this defense, even they did in the last defense, but it is that you've got to save money somewhere,
Mhm.
and we've got business to do, and Mike's going to want to bring on his guys here, specific guys. And I think Quandary's he showed off a little bit of that flexibility at the end of the year. We always kept him single high, so
Mhm.
some of the coming down and doing some of the getting down in the box and getting dirty a little bit, some people wonder about, because there are times he does do the business decision thing too, the free safety business
Yeah.
decision thing, where it's like, that was a hell of a precipitous route you just took to the ball carrier there, my guy. Like, I don't know. I don't know on that one. The one thing I have a worry, you mentioned about the corners, I do agree with that point. These guys in coverage, especially. But the thing I worry about is that Devin and Tariq were two, some of the best corners in man coverage last year.
Mhm.
Yet what I read a lot about and look at a lot on the film here is that there is a lot of zone coverage here.
There is.
Do you think
There is.
McDonald's going to angle more into the man to make this work with these two guys on the outside, or do you think just tries to teach him up to the zone? That's the way the scheme just works at its best.
Well, I think it was a lot of zone for us because we didn't have the corners that you guys have. So I think there's a piece of untapped page in his book that we couldn't just stay on because we didn't have man corners. Like we didn't have the guys that could just play man multiple downs and be successful at it. We had to mix man and zone. And a lot of times when you see our defense get beat, we got caught man.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned the 2 passes versus to Travis Kelce in that first drive. Brandon Stevens was all over him on that first third down. He just was better than Brandon Stevens. And then the pass in the end zone, Kyle was all over him. He just was better than Kyle.
Yeah.
And you got 2 corners, and I don't know how well Kobe is now, but I know he was a pick when you picked Reek. But 2, maybe 2.5, maybe 3 corners that can play some man football. And we really had one guy.
You saw Kobe as a corner coming out, right?
Yeah, he played with Sauce, if I'm not mistaken.
He did, but that's what you saw his NFL future at, right?
I thought it was.
Yeah, I did too. They slot to safety last year was the transition. We'll see what the new coaching staff does, but I think the coaching staff will kick him back out and go out. Let's put him back out there. What about the tackling on the corners, though? That's the worry about Woolen. Tackling went down in the a little bit downwards last year. It seemed like no matter who the corners were on the outside, you got to tackle in this scheme. So that's where I get worried about with Woolen, man. I get worried that Mike might come in and he look at that tape and he goes, he ain't going to do it there. I love what he does all in the coverage on the back end, but he ain't going to tackle well enough for what this has to be what you do in my defense is tackle from the corner position off the edge. And those Shanahan guys, man, the pin pull blocks, and isolating those corners out on the outside, which is okay. It's you heads up on the running back. Here you go. And it's in bright display there. So I do worry about that, but you're right about the untapped potential there.
And that's the offensive spiel that most offensive coaches even try to do. Even me, I try to do it as a high school coach. I'm trying to get my running back to your cornerback. Normally the cornerback is the worst tackler.
100%.
So no matter how I can do that, whether it's pin and pull, toss, or whatever, even if we run duo, I'm gonna try to block everybody but your corner and just see if your corner want to tackle.
Coach, wait till you get to this draft. There's going to be 25 draftable cornerback grades in this draft, and I think 7 of them actually like to tackle. So it's, it is everything in the book on film right now already at the gate. It's not just business decisions. It's hey, receiver, let's have an agreement pre-game, we're going to, yeah. All right, let's just move it this way a little bit. All right, make it look good. Come on, make it look good. I'm going to take the route. It's a run play, but I thought he was running a route. So to your point, I mean, that's it, right now. Corners are not tackling too well coming out. And so you don't do well at college. You ain't going to do a whole hell of a lot better probably at the pro level unless you really work on it. Well, how do you look at the rest of the personnel? You started on it. I kind of interrupted you. You mentioned the corners. How do you look at the rest of the front 7 personnel? As far as this fit goes with him, who, I guess, definitely he keeping here. That guy's going to work. That guy's going to work, or this guy, no.
Well, when I looked at your roster, I knew Jordan Brooks came in with Queen. I didn't know that you guys didn't 5th year. Or was was Brooks the first round draft pick?
He was the guy in front of you guys. So that was, did you see and I'm going to take you, I'm sorry, taking this in, but Schneider said this, which was hilarious. He mentioned in his press conference how the Ravens and the Hawks have been having a back and forth for years, where we keep drafting out of your guy, or you guys end up getting our guy. Like, I think you guys got Linderbaum from us. There was people that thought we took Brooks ahead of you and Queen, because Brooks was right ahead of Queen in that first round. And then you went to Queen with the next pick in the first. So I think it's kind of hilarious. It could have been an alternate universe, flipped with that one. But yeah, Brooks came in on that class. We didn't do the fourth though.
Bobby's gone too, right?
Well, Bobby's a free agent. So that's a question to you. I mean, this is a hotly contested item in the Hawk fan base, man. I mean, I'd love to know where your stance is on Bobby, but I think he's still a solid player. He comes in at a pretty cheap cost, 1-year deal. I think we're going to have to flip out Brooks. Like you said, he is a free agent. He's going to make probably $10 to $12 million a year, not as much as Queen, but and if you think Queen's, just the issues in coverage with Brooks are tremendous. And I just think it makes it hard to dump down the 12 if you can't have a linebacker that can cover in zone, especially if you're going to a zone heavy scheme like we are, like you're saying. But Bobby's a bit different, because Bobby, we used in this Vic Fangio cover 2 shell at the Rams. They showed you how to use him there, keep him there on line of scrimmage, not the linebacker spot, cover 2 spot drops with the linebacker 30 yards down the middle of the seams, but actually getting him up down, near the line of scrimmage. Because that's what we're doing. And people are sitting there, it's hard, man. You must get this too, where it's like, we drop our linebackers back in that, literally into that 10, 15 yards of depth. You have the crosser on the outside X coming this way. And so your linebackers, he's watching the quarterback. Here comes the receiver. And now you're asking not just a 34-year-old linebacker, but let's just say it's a 26-year-old in his prime guy. Flip your hips, catch right back up with that receiver before he gets out to the sideline where the play is going to be thrown to on the crosser.
Who's running full speed?
Who's running full speed, who's a 4.3 guy. And I'll have people pepper my chat going, it's slow feet, can't move. I'm like, I just feel like you shouldn't really be asking your guys to do that in coverage. No middle linebacker is really going to succeid on that.
And see, football has changed. When I first started, and those little guys come across there, they might get punched in their mouth.
Yeah.
You did not run shallows or drags across the middle of the field, but now you can, and that's defense is the hardest thing to play, man. I know everybody say quarterback is defense in the NFL is really hard to play because the game is not geared for you. And that to me is what Mike did so special, because the game is not geared for defense. It's not. And for him to lead the defense that led the league in takeaways, scoring, defensive scoring,
Triple Crown.
And what was the third panel?
It was takeaways, points, and
sacks.
Sacks, sorry. Yeah.
And then we had all those sacks with no premier rusher. BK's 13 sacks just happened. We didn't have a clown. I'm not a clown. Myles Garrett or Aaron Donald or that too. And they got those. And I thought BK's sacks were manufactured. Most of them weren't. He actually kind of came into his own.
I think he earned them. I think where the manufacturer comes from, in my opinion, is that when you bring those stack fronts, those are always between the quarterback and offensive line going to have a tendency to change protections and drive them to change the protections to just be on the safe side, right? Well, if we're wrong, we end up with one-on-one blocks across the board, but you end up with one-on-one blocks. And that's where, and then you win. Mabube's beaten. He's a 3-tech one, getting his one-on-one, but there ain't that chipper. It's like I see so many times already on film where you'll have a running back in shotgun with the quarterback, and he's supposed to come out there and chip on the edge like Clowney. This is another thing I think that freed up Clowney this year, is he's supposed to go there, but you've got the double A gap blitz coming. So the quarterback changes protection. The running back slides in, the linebackers drop into coverage. So he's going up to pick up somebody that's not even coming. And then JD gets his single coverage up on the outside. And that's something that for years plagued Clowney, where he was getting double teamed and chipped constantly, which was part of what removed his pass rush productivity.
And in that same design that you're speaking of, we'll have all those guys at the box. And a lot of people have a tendency to bring somebody a Walker tight end closer to kind of chip and whatnot. And that plays right into his hand. Because when you walk that tight end down, who's going to walk down with him? Kyle Hamilton. And then you add another blitzer, because now you can get all those guys up at the front. He'll drop some guys from maybe the left side. So the offensive line has already, changed their call, like you said, to block these two guys. They drop out to take away the height. Kyle comes off the end because you don't have enough people. Because you've already changed your protection to block the 6 that's up there.
Yeah.
And then not only will he do it from Kyle, he'll do it from the other side. And that's why I mentioned Arthur Marlette. We didn't know who he was, but he came up with some timely sacks coming from the other side. Because now you look, okay, Kyle over there, we probably need to change protection this side. He coming. and you come off the other side. So anytime you condense the formula, you kind of play into his hands.
Yeah. And again, that unpredictability and leaving offenses guessing, and how that's so different, Coach, from where we've been watching our Seahawks team. We're going to give you a front four look. We're going to give you what you're going to see on the back ends, what you're going to get. And now we're going to be able to flip that kind of completely, in the opposite direction. So, some teams are all doing this to a degree, a little bit flick, but McDonald's owned it. We've done almost none of it on our side of it. So it's going to be a huge difference. I got a couple donations. Let me make sure I get to these here, Coach. Megan, thank you for the $50 donation. Megan Gokraji, my lady Danenda in the house. How you doing, Megan? She says, always great to have on the Hawks. Always have on the Nest, Coach. Well, thank you, Megan, of course, put me on here to coach initially and got me, hooked up with you on that. So I thank you for that, Megan. And I'm pulling you back, Coach, for some prospect talk. So get ready, man. Get ready, because we got to get into that on it. Hey, our teams look for similar guys. My general manager said it. Okay, he said in a press conference 2 weeks ago. So what we look at, you guys are looking at, and vice versa. So it's just good to meet up the minds on that one. But Megan, thank you for the donation. I appreciate you for that. 3 Hour, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. Welcome aboard the Hawks Nest, and thank you for doing that. Garth Knight with a $5 says, props to Zip2 for coming on. There's now 3 Harbaugh teams in the league, with Baltimore, the Chargers, and now Seattle with the Harbaugh influence. That's right. Harbaugh's slowly taking over the NFL. We got the special teams coach too now here. And thank you, Garth, for the $5. Let's double back around that Harbaugh talk.
Okay.
DaCosta the day after the playoff loss is no longer the general manager. Instead, it's Coach Evans is going to be the general manager. Okay. And you're seeing the boards. You're seeing the boards burning up. You watch Zip2 Tally's 7-hour live stream, and you're hearing about all the people saying, let's keep Mike McDonald instead of Harbaugh. Let's not make a mistake here. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire. What are you going to do in that situation as general manager?
First of all, it can't be the next day. I don't make a decision.
Give it a week.
I'll make a decision.
Take your time, GM. You're my GM.
He has to come in with it got to be kind of fast, because everybody wants Mike. We know how hot Mike's name is in the streets.
It's hot.
But he has to sell me on a plan to take the next step. You have, in my opinion, you probably had the best team you've had in a long time this year. The best team, like offensively and defensively. And it'd be different if you lost in a shootout, or if you just totally wet the bed. But think about the last time you were the best team in the AFC. And then this time you were the best team in the AFC. You basically had the same thing happen to you twice. You went away from your identity and you underperformed. And not saying you should have won the game, because that can go either way. But you underperformed in the same exact manner. So what's it going to say for us to go and bring these guys in and build this back up, and us have another great season, that you won't do it again? You got to sell me on the plan, and if I'm the general manager, I do have a pulse of what the players think. And I would really have to see how they're kind of feeling. Not saying I'm going to ask them how they feel. I'm going to read the room. Because one thing that bothers me, and I know a lot of people don't notice this, like when everybody has camera in the locker room at the end of the game, and they post game speeches and whatnot. Every time he calls Lamar's in a different room. And I know locker rooms are kind of sectioned off by walls and whatnot, but for the most part, everybody's kind of huddled around whatever they're doing. When Lamar has good games and he has to give him a game ball or whatnot, like they got to wait for Lamar to come from like way Owens Mills or somewhere. So I don't
in his office,
right? Is his voice stale? I know to the fans his voice is stale. Yeah, and I know as a player you can't come out and say, "Hey, my coach," whatever. You can, but you don't want that drama like that.
Yeah,
but
no, it is drama when you say it.
my thing is, if they were going to make that move, it should have been for Mike. But now that Mike is gone on, I don't want him to make that move, because I don't want to settle. I don't want to settle.
Well, and I can get where they come from. We felt, we just crossed this bridge with Carroll, obviously having a guy here that's been just about here, not quite as long as Harbaugh, but almost as long. And there's been a couple of coach quotes that I'd heard from that are old time coaches, man, that had talked about this. Schottenheimer and supposedly Bill Walsh said at one time that 10 years in, just people, the players just stopped kind of tuning you out a little bit. And I don't think that that's what's going on. I mean, you don't get to the year you do right now if the players aren't checked into me.
Right.
And it really comes down to what I think got Carroll was just that I don't change and I don't, look forward thinking I'm not doing something new. I want to hold on to the old. Whereas with Harbaugh, set in his ways.
Which is why another great coach probably don't have a job right now. No, not gonna throw no names out there.
I 100% agree with you. Everybody's putting it on the general manager thing, but it's really, I think, more about, okay, we've got to take on this whole thing. Does this whole thing still work in the way that it once did? And I don't know in the other coach you're talking about's case, I have an instinct, but in Carroll's case, I don't, just because he wouldn't go forward and evolve. And with, one thing I'll say with Harbaugh is that you do have a guy that went from Wink Martindale. You said, and I read a lot about this last week with just take the defense alone, where he's, too much blitz stuff, too much cover zero, too much, let's roll the dice one more time, 7-11. And it just goes, that's too much. And then he goes to this defense that has a little bit of a different identity while still coming from that Buddy Ryan 46-ish tree there. And still finding that way. So you go, okay, so there is still a smart football mind, and they did get the most out of Lamar as a runner before he could kind of become more passer, and now became more of a passer this year. So there was a little bit of a modeling there. I mean, I felt like that the Lamar did come forward in that way and became more, it's less of me feeling like I'm watching a running back play and more like I'm watching a quarterback play the position. So I feel like I'd still be drawn back to he's made some great hires in the past. He can do that again. And it's just a matter of, so what do I say? I go, hey, I'm going to run the ball in the playoffs. I'm going to force Lamar to run the ball in the playoffs if we run into that situation again. That'd be enough.
To me, it's just don't abandon your plan. If KC had went up 24-0, if it was 24-0 coming out of half, or even 24-7 coming out of half, totally understand. 3 scores, they milking the clock. You got to put the ball in the air to try to score quick.
Yeah.
They scored 7, we scored 7. They scored 14, we had 7. They had 17, we had 7. They never scored again. They never scored again.
It's true.
So
how many times you run that second half? 3, 4 times?
2 that I know of. 2 that I can think of off the top of my head, and both of them were to Gus Edwards. So that means Gus Edwards had 1 carry in the first half, which went for 15 yards.
That's it. Don't you hate that too? When you did give it to them, they went off and had a great run too. It wasn't like they got stonewalled. And like, what were we? How did we get to the?
We had Lamar on a 4th and 1. Lamar ran for like 25, 30 or whatever it was. The very next play, we had a heavy personnel. They ran power. Gus ran for 15. And that was it.
Still makes no sense. Yeah, especially when you had the stage set with your backs pretty well healthied up to go in that game and good to be, good to work. So I don't get it either. So it'll be that was an odd game plan from their approach, especially because you'd want to keep Mahomes. That's one of the things with Mahomes and Chiefs is you keep the offense off the field by controlling the clock, by running the ball, by keeping them out of rhythm. Yep. It's kind of like a tried and true attempted strategy most of the times. Barry Soetoro has been celebrating 30 months as a Hawks Nest member. Barry, let's go, man. Almost up to 3 years out there. Let's go. Says, Coach, 2 Ravens free agents he'd hate to see us sign with the Hawks.
Hate?
I
don't think hate. Because
bottom of your soul,
a whole different conference.
Pounding tables when you.
But there's one dude that probably is not going to leave where he's at now, but Chris Jones, who's a free agent, and
he said Ravens free agents.
Oh, I can't do nothing about that. You're probably gonna get Queen. You're probably gonna get Queen. I'm kind of hoping you get Queen. Honestly, I wouldn't hate it. I'm kind of hoping you get Queen because I'd be cool with him going to this team because I know we probably can't re-sign him. And another free agent, I'd say Clowney.
I love me some Clowney, man.
I'd say Clowney.
That'd be awesome. I'd feel very good about those two. Everyone in Hawk fandom would feel good because they loved Clowney when he's here for the year that he was here. So
he's coming off his best year.
Yeah. They stopped messing around with it, man. Like he's don't pop him in as a 3-tech. Don't stand him up as a spinner. Don't have him in there trying to always be looping around every time. Just let him come off the edge as a wide with his hand in the dirt and let him attack and get the single blocks as much as you can pull that with the stack fronts, which is where that's the solution I think Macdonald found with Clowney this year that's unique in that scenario. Is other coaches didn't understand that in that way of like, let me pull the singles and you get a tackle, go 1-1 against Clowney. He's too strong. He's just going to forklift those guys snap after snap, and there's not a lot they can really do about it. You know, you can see him start to panic as the game goes along. Like, this guy's strong as hell, and I can't really do much to kind of counter that. So
he had 9, and he legit should have had 14 or 15.
Yeah. Well, that's legit what I always
14 or 15. He slid off, like he would have guys and kind of, as they try to wiggle out of it, he'd fall off. So he legit should have had 14 or 15 sacks. He's
always been there's a little bit of the $10 million move with the 10-cent finish sometimes on the slide. But that's all right, because he gets his 2 with it. You know what I mean? Like, he still gets the others in between there, where it's like he'll still dunk, he'll get his dunks. It's just there's a couple of those that I don't know what it is. He got long arms, and you should be able to just take them right down. Or maybe he's trying not to get the
penalty.
That penalty for being too hard on the quarterbacks now that you can get. Like, those, I like those free agents. Maybe a Geno Stone if Quandre does go too.
Geno's available. Yeah. And he had great success behind Mike. And a lot of people were, in our fan base were saying that he was better than Marcus. And I had to kind of remind him, like, yes, Geno got 7 interceptions. Yes, he's making these plays. He's still not better than Marcus.
Yeah.
But he's good. He's good. Marcus just stayed hurt. And when we had him in Marcus's spot as being just the free, he flourished.
Yeah.
He got those picks and was able to make tackles, but when he had to do different stuff, we couldn't keep him on the field. Like, we wanted to kind of move him down and back. Sometimes his tackling was and Marcus was tackling better than him with one arm. Because Marcus played half the season with I don't know if it was a shoulder or a pectoral issue, but he was just kind of throwing his shoulder, tackling, and he was tackling better than Geno Stone at one point. But Geno go get the ball though. If he's just playing free, Geno go get the ball. That's one thing he can do. He can go get the ball.
Yeah. See, I think that's where people worry about with the Quandre thing and staying here with the price, because he's making top 10 safety money. And you go, well, but if he can't, it seems like Mike Macdonald's system just really requires those secondary players to have a full skill set. And especially at the safety position, if the cover 2 shell kind of makes the strong safety do some free safety stuff and the free safety do kind of some strong safety stuff, it seems like Mike Macdonald's version of the cover 2 shell really reinforces those requirements of the position, where it's not just like, well, if it's convenient for you, but no, you're going to need to play it like a box safety sometimes free, I don't know. That's what's going to make it weird about how we address ours. You mentioned Kobe Bryant. I think Julian Love is the guy that really benefited most from Mike Macdonald coming, because he really did well out there in Wake Martindale's scheme out there with the Giants, and which of course he did a lot with.
You don't have Leonard anymore either, do it?
Who?
The defensive tackle, is it
I think he's going to be the priority. I think he's going to be the priority. Leonard Williams.
Yeah.
He's going to be the priority free agent, I think.
Okay.
So I think that they're going to
might be the franchise tag guy.
No, because he's been done twice already.
Oh, no,
When you hit him with a third, it's like an extra 20% on top of the,
He might make 60 in 1 year.
I like Leonard, but that's new. But I think they're going to try to throw the as much money, and then he's got McDonald coming in here, so I'm sure he's going, ooh, I'm going to get single opportunities all across the board. He knows the defense too, because he's got Martindale's background. So there's a lot there that to me just fits too well not to bring Williams back into play. But that I do think that you have to cut the money out of the safety, right, to afford the stuff on the front end then with Leonard Williams to remain.
And I think wholeheartedly, the better your front end is, you can afford to not have an as good back end, in my opinion.
I'm in 100% agreement with this as well. I think you could go kick Julian Love. He can do both of those 2 safety position things. You got a couple guys here that are interesting on the roster. Maybe go draft a guy then. Like there's a Tyler Nubin in this draft that would be perfect for both of our defenses. You talk about matching up a Tyler Nubin with a Justin Hamilton. It's like, holy hell, you could be running anything you want all day long, anything. And they both have kind of that. Hamilton's a better player. He doesn't got the upside, but he's kind of a sub first round guy.
You said Justin Hamilton. I went along with it. I had a kid that played for me named Justin Hamilton. He ended up playing for the Cowboys.
I don't know why. I keep saying that too. I keep saying that with him, and I can't get the other. I'll learn it here eventually with it. But that's kind of the combo we might be looking to go to. But yeah, I agree with you. It's about get the front 7, get especially the front 4 up there legitimate, and you can really then cover and protect. I just don't think it works as much inverse. We tried the past couple of years. Right. The inverse didn't really kick in as much on that.
The best corners, 4 seconds, they tapped out.
Yeah,
right. And if you can't get home, I mean, just look at the one play Lamar had versus the Lions. They had everybody covered. Lamar had 9 seconds to throw the ball. End up in a touchdown. So corners can't cover no longer than 4 or 5 seconds, especially when scramble drill starts. All heck breaks loose.
And when you got those weak pass rushers, sometimes they can't get there and fight. It's like it's one of those things like, well, they just logically keep fighting and fighting, and the pocket eventually closes. It's like, no, sometimes they're just sitting there, tackles just
patty cake.
What do you want to do here? And
rock'em sock'em robots.
yeah. You just go. It's get the line right, and we've made this mistake of that not going strong enough on that front four, where we did pretty good with sacks, but it was not consistent. It was like we'd have these games with big upshoots of sacks and pressures that sort of tilted the numbers of how the pressure really, how the went, and it always was just the front four. So you got to invest in it, man. You got to invest in that all the way. Snail, thank you for the $5 donation. Says, Coach, welcome to the 12s. Now, time to weigh in on my favorite Seahawks debate. NFL MVP. Sean NFL MVP, I can't speak now. Sean Alexander, Hall of Famer?
Is he a Hall of Famer? I would have to look at his numbers, but he did have some great years in Seattle. I don't know his total numbers. I just
9,500 yards and like 106 touchdowns.
I mean, they've let worse people get in my opinion.
Some
guys that are in there that probably shouldn't be in there.
Well, shoot, who's your guys' back? You guys won the Super Bowl. The big dog. He ran all
Lewis.
Yeah. I mean, is Lewis a Hall of Famer?
He didn't have enough. He got hurt. Even though he had a 2,000-yard season, that's a good question.
I
guess I need to look at the numbers compared to Sean. I feel like Sean did it for a longer period of time, but I could be wrong.
Well, he did have a good run of those years, and Sean had the MVP, so he did have the year where he went off too. But Sean did have Walter Jones and Steve Hutchinson up front too. Two Hall of Famers in his own right. This becomes where this is a fun debate in the Hawk fandom, because it's like
Jamal had some good old linemen too. Now he had
Ogden, but then who else was on that line really?
I mean, look at 49ers. They run behind Trent all the time. So
yeah, true. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes all you need is an Ogden. It's like 2 for 1 with those guys. That's for sure. So what was your answer on that one? What was your final answer?
I think yes, because I think there are lesser caliber guys in the Hall of Fame. So I would say yes, not knowing because it was random, so I wasn't prepared for the question, but I think yes.
Oh, I know, totally, yeah. It's a tough one too, because there's so many running backs in that log jams. The 10,000-yard mark seems to be kind of a log jam of guys. Some get in, some don't. It's like you say, it's almost a bit arbitrary of which ones are decided to be allowed or not. And I don't know.
We'll see. We tend to think of the more flashier guys.
We do. I think too,
just a workhorse.
It was. And I think it's going to maybe start pushing into the future in that 12, 13,000 yard territory. But then again, we'll see, because there's not as many of those bad. Who's getting there? That's the other thing about it, is like, it was for a while, everybody was getting there. And now it's the trends, the trends go back. You buying this? I want to try out this thing real quick for you too on this. So this is my theory on the defense going forward. I've been trying this theory out, seeing what people think. I'd love to see your thoughts. We got the NFL at starts. Okay. I'm talking back of the days, no face mask, the leather helmets, right? Defense far out ahead of the offense, right? Far out ahead of the offense. And we start getting along 50s, 60s, 70s, and slowly the offense is catching up. About late 70s, Air Coryell, offenses kick in, Bill Walsh 80s. And it seems like the offenses by the late 80s, it's just maybe at least even or maybe nudged over. Last 20, 30 years, offense, it just really has continued to extend, it seems like. Do you feel like we talked about trends this last year, man, it felt like scoring was down a little bit. Third down efficiency felt like it was down a little bit this year. Do we feel like now is the time we're in it, where the defense is going to start to come back into the flow on this, where you're going to see that thinking and understanding that like that beginning point wasn't always the offense ahead. It wasn't always the offense miles. And I know the NFL rules are slanted and all that, but like I was saying to you earlier, I feel like that there's room here for this catch up to occur.
If the rules stayed as is, I feel like everything is cyclical, and that the defense would do that. But with so many people, well, I take that back. With the NFL wanting to sell their product, and we know the up and down sales the product, they're going to do something to just gut punch the defense. Something. They're going to do something. And I'm an offensive guy. I love the ball going up and down the field. But I think with the NFL being a business and they want to sell the most exciting game ever, they gonna do something to gut punch the defense to make it not be able to come back and be like a defensive lead. The best chance you got, I think you got the guy that can work around, find loopholes in it, and create chaos. Because he gives you one thing and it's never really what you think it is. There, like for him to come out in a one high safety and it to be cover 1 or cover 3, it's rare. So let's just say it was 1,000 plays. That may have happened 3 times. You're pretty much going to get something different at the snap of that ball. You don't really know who's coming, and God forbid he gives you somebody on the defense with some patience. Like one of my favorite plays from us this year, we playing the Texans, and the name I mentioned earlier, Arthur Mollett. Arthur Mollett was covering the slot receiver. He's looking at the slot receiver. CJ Stroud goes up. He scans the defense, I guess, trying to get his read or whatnot. Then the tackle taps the center, for the silent count or whatever. Then CJ Stroud gets his hands ready to catch it. That's when Mollett slides off the edge and goes. He's untouched, just because he was patient. He never looked at CJ Stroud. He looked at the receiver the entire time. And then once that center touched the guard touched the center to snap the ball, that's when he slid in and went. If you can get guys with patience and are disciplined to do stuff like that, that's the best way to kind of, because you got to trick the offense. You got to, because it's set up for them to win. And then you got to take away the numbers game, which we didn't at first, because that's all the Chiefs did versus us that first half. We were playing a 2-high shell. They go 3 receivers to one side. We'd have 2 DBs over there, but that second safety, that other safety be deep. And we just threw the ball out there, blocked them 2 front guys, let them see if they make somebody miss. And when we finally played the numbers, and we tackled it. They really didn't have a secondary plan.
Yeah.
So he does a good job of adjusting. I will say that.
And it seems like, I guess, as much ground as you can gain, to your point, from what you're saying, he's going to gain as much of that ground, or this potential defense is there to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. It's probably the cattle tackle. What is the cattle tackle? The hip tackle? That'll be the next thing.
Drop hit thingy, whatever.
Yeah, the drop hit will probably be the next thing they do, because they can't take that away, man. That's going to be too hard for those guys to come on. What are they supposed to do? These guys.
Now, it did claim some players, but
I know.
How else are you supposed to?
I know it got your Shane Andrews, and we didn't talk about that as a big part of the game, is that not having 100% Shane Andrews definitely hurts your Raven. Mark, I can't say the names right. My bad, man. I'm sorry.
That's fine, because you are Seahawks. That's fine.
That's right. Well, I should know better. I'm an NFL fan. I know Mark Andrews, so I know better.
We was fine without Mark. The offense even got better without Mark.
Oh, okay.
It
just always feels like he's the safety blanket in there.
Okay. Everybody was touching the ball. Like, nobody really had like these crazy numbers, but the running backs were getting touches. All 3 receivers were getting touches. The tight ends were getting touches. The offense, it flourished outside of Mark. And I'm not blaming Mark for the loss. I'm just saying it was nice.
We got to stop. We got to stop having Isaiah Likely raise his hand when he's got triple coverage.
Well, you got to stop the quarterback from throwing it when he can see all 3 people. Isaiah Likely sees 1. He see all 3 of them.
Didn't they have the previous week? There was, when I saw the play, I went, "Oh, you know what happened there was the previous week at the Texans game. Wasn't he in the end zone, or maybe he was in the line of last regular season? But he went up and he made one of those trust catches where he goes over the top and peels it back over the top of the corner on that.
That was a playoff game.
That was a playoff game. I felt like maybe that was in Lamar's mind when he made that throw and completely like, I'll just put it in there and he'll do the Isaiah Likely thing where he could just go up and, kind of moss a guy on it. And yeah,
that catch was 1-on-1. This was 3-on-1.
Sure.
Pass interference aside, it's still, when you look at that play from the back, he does have the Tampa 2 linebacker beat. He does. And that's when he throws his hands up. He can't see the safety behind him or the one coming from the other side, because he know, I got this guy beat. Lamar, give me the ball. He looking for the ball. He can't see the safeties. That ain't on him. So I
Yeah.
never blamed him, for throwing his hand up at no point. But the quarterback, you see the whole thing, man. Come on.
Can't throw that there. Got to be more protective of the ball.
Right.
New Hawkaholic, thank you for becoming a member of the channel. I appreciate you for that, Hawkaholic. Chad Hart, thank you for the $5. Appreciate you. Says B, tell coach the Ravens are still the big dogs in the AFC. One more thing, beat that damn Pittsburgh Steelers team. Yes, sir. That is an agreement. I second.
That's the team we can't beat.
Yeah, that was weird this year, huh? 17-10.
They've beaten us. I say the last 10 games, they've probably beaten us 8.
Yeah. They got Arthur.
Their wins don't really matter because we always play them at the end, and when we don't play the full team, so they kind of almost get an automatic win because we play them the last week almost every time.
I was gonna say, you just coach throwing the Steelers here subtly, but he's throwing shade at him there just a little bit. I see what you're doing there, coach. Yeah, I mean they're hey they're resting too, but they just were preparing for Cancun. That's all for the couple weeks, So, but that's true. That's true. Cancun on 3. Well, I do think you guys are still well positioned. I know you're a little bit worried about where your coaches are going to be, but I think what helps when you still got a lot of talent there. I don't think you're going to lose a ton of guys, and you've still been drafting really well over the years. I gotta say it was good to hear from my general manager that he saw himself looking at the same players, and that it was an anecdote that I told you about a little bit of the story there, but it's also a little bit of, I told you this midweek last year, where you guys draft for value and you let value run your board. You don't go to need. And why you guys have been able to remain where you're in, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the big reasons is because you've kept in that, whether it was Ozzie there or whether it's DaCosta there, you've been able to keep in that lane. And so many teams get pulled into the lane of need every draft and just come here, and you guys stay in that spot and you get the benefits. And that's why I think the future is, really, really, really bright for you guys, especially now that we do know Lamar can do the passing stuff. He is a competent passing quarterback. Now it's like you said, just stay with your identity. Don't move off of that.
When a lot of DaCosta or Isaac make the picks, a lot of the fan base, myself included, kind of look like why. But this year, some of those moves, like as minuscule as they seemed at the moment, they really paid off big. They really paid off big. Like just random name, not even Kyle Hamilton. Just Travis Jones. Travis Jones, a 3rd round pick, and played a significant role. Had to jump in his game. Is likely 4th round pick or whatever. Because we had like 900 4th round picks a couple years ago. And both tight ends and almost 4 picks apart. Likely. I mean, or Kolar then likely. So he, his picks panned out. It's just one that really bites him in the butt when it comes to me, and that's where the value over the need, I think, really bit us in the butt, and that's Ojabo over Pickens.
Ooh.
I personally had Pickens as the best receiver in that class.
I did. I had a 1st round grade on him too. I don't know if I have the best, but I'm definitely that.
To get Ojabo, who's only played maybe 20 snaps. That one pick really bothers me, but it's one pick. It's one pick out of 70. But I just know we needed a wide receiver because we lost Hollywood and didn't go get one.
Well, why do the NFL draft evaluators have such a hard time with Pickens? I understand that
attitude, discipline. Then he was injured that last year, and he got well enough to play in the champ. They didn't want him to play in the championship game, but he was like, why wouldn't I play? I missed all these other games. I liked him because I got to see him personally.
Yeah.
They had a Florida State has an elite camp where it's like invite only. And I was able to go because we had a kid that was invited. And George Pickens Sam Howell was the quarterback at this camp for George Pickens. I tell you it didn't matter who was in front of George Pickens, he destroyed them. At one point, they were trying to see how good he was. He went 4 or 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
And destroyed everybody up there. And I was a fan of him since. And I think he was underused at Georgia because he wasn't in the right system because, Georgia's a running down your throat, play action type team. But had he been in a system that threw the ball a lot, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have been like if he played in a Washington system like last year, He probably broke all kind of records. But if he was healthy.
Oh yeah.
But he was legit, and the fact that he don't mind blocking, I love that.
I loved it too. I just his tape I fell in love with. He had that one play on tape at Georgia where the ball's out in front of him on a go ball, and he just sort of decides as it's coming down, I'm going to just jump, and I swear he must have jumped 10 feet forward to go get the ball and does a somersault flip on the catch, mid catch to a somersault, and comes up off. Then you went, whoa,
and sticks the landing.
Sticks the landing, and you just go, geez, that's guys don't do that, and especially don't do that at his size. And he's like a kind of Madden creative player, receiver wise, with the length and the just angular build that he's got. He's still not utilized at Pittsburgh in the right. He's got Arthur Smith coming in,
and won't be not with why you beat me too.
It's going to get dark for him a little. He's going to have to wait for that free agency, I think, with that one, man, because Arthur ain't going to throw the ball. I mean, if he couldn't get Kyle Pitts going, he ain't going to get Pickens going. So like it's a wrap. They might run the ball well there in Pittsburgh, but I have a feeling Arthur like, yeah, Pickett will be fine. Let's just roll with that. Thank you, Chad. Radu, thanks for being a member for the Hawks Nest for 2 months. What's stopping McDonald bringing in Monken as well? Would you be disappointed if he left, or would you be glad?
I would be disappointed.
Okay.
I'd be disappointed. I would feel, if I'm him, I would feel like the job's unfinished. Like I had everything to cook the meal, and I just didn't let it cook long enough. Me personally would feel that way. If he left, obviously I'd get over it. But, and I'd be mad if he left. Yeah, I would. I would be mad if he left. Unless you replace him with somebody off the Shanahan tree that's going to get my quarterback under center.
Mm-hmm. Well, that Shanahan tree's been plucked pretty hard lately. You know what I mean? Like there ain't a lot of there's fruits, but they're still growing, right? You're grabbing something a little bit green on it right now.
Let me ask you this question. Everybody says those guys are off the Shanahan tree.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to keep it a buck, aren't they all off the Jay Gruden tree? Jay Gruden was the head coach when they was all in Washington.
It's all Bill Walsh, basically. To me, I go Bill Walsh. That's where I land at. It's all Bill, But yeah, I mean, it's and you're right. Some of these guys are not even under necessarily Shanahan. They were on like the coaching staff with his dad, so they're not even at the Kyle. It's actually Mike Shanahan. I think that my opinion is on the Shanahan offense is that it's maybe in the middle of doing its best stuff, but it's not like the defense we're talking about with McDonald, where it's the only game in town to me. Mm-hmm. And I think that there's a lot of room for other offenses to come in. Maybe some of the spread concepts. I mean, I'd love to hear what you think. We're looking at bringing in Ben Grubbs, that offensive attack that you love to watch with Penix. Mm-hmm. Can it? But without the big wide hash marks, we ain't get them wide hashes here at the pro level. How's that going to work without the wide hashies?
I'm not sure. What Washington did that really amazed me, aside from the passing stuff, when it got nitty-gritty time, they ran the football. Oh yeah. They didn't run it well versus Michigan, but they ran the football. And so as much as Penix was thrown all over the place, they knew they had to set the pass up with the run. And if he can find a way to do that, I feel like he'll be, okay. The thing is with the NFL, you got to run the ball. There's like in high school and college, you can reverse that. You can throw to set up the run. In NFL, that ain't gonna cut it. You got to run the ball. Some kind of whether it's outside zone, inside zone, corner power, or a mixture of all those, you got to find a way to get the runs going, because when you go to play action, them linebackers will laugh at you.
Yeah. Well, and that's the whole thing. I think that's starting to be a bit of a new thing with the NFL, where analytics and all that was trying to tell you, let's say it was 7 or 8 years ago, that you don't actually need the run to set up the play action, because theoretically you're getting that bite occurring. But I think what you're saying, and what I've seen as well in my eyes, is that in recent years, you're maybe seeing more of these linebackers being coached by the coaches to play more of the situation. And depending on the coaching staff, like us, for instance, who love to stop the run, our linebackers are always taking that full step forward. You can always count on it to come no matter what. But more smarter driven teams, I think, are more looking to, no, you lose a step taking that in. So it's like in baseball, first step goes back now. And then if that's your read, if that's your read of the linebacker, obviously if you read the run, you want them to be instinctive with that. But a lot of these times you can kind of, these players, I've been told, do you buy it? A lot of times they do kind of know generally what they're getting when we get to the point of snap, whether it's pass or run, right? Yeah. I mean, do you think there's really that guessing game that's in there intricately at the pro level?
the analytics and guys watching tape, you have a general idea of pass run. And that's why when somebody throws a draw on 3rd and 8, a lot of times it's successful.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, everybody in America knows that it's a passing down. And if you got the cojones to run it there and you get it, kudos to you. But if I'm gonna play the numbers and you're gonna run it on 3rd and 8 every time, you're probably not going to get it.
No,
So, they're the guys that play the game now, they're just more aware, more tape study, smarter guys actually. They have a better feel for the game. They specialize early, so they're doing just football stuff from 12 now, which is nuts in my eyes. A 12-year-old just playing football. But
oh my God. Yeah.
they,
Please
they
hopefully just flag.
Right. They come in like robots. And they already been, they had these personal coaches. The personal coaches not only coach them physically, they coach them mentally, teach them how to watch film and do a bunch of different other things if they're good. And so they just come in more ready to do different stuff. And so kudos to them, man. I just, I wish I had lived in that era, been an athlete in that area.
Would have been nice, huh? Would have been nice getting prepped like that, fully all the way around. You were just in your backyard, probably like I was, like trying to do wind sprints and stuff. So it's a bit of a different thing now, man. That's for true. We'll try to get you. I know we crossed an hour here, so we'll try to get a little bit of a wrap up shortly here. Thank you, Snail, for the $5 donation. It says, Coach, what are your thoughts on the Hall of Fame snubbing the GOAT, Marcus Trufant, greatest defensive back of all time? Go Cougs, Pac-2 champs.
Ooh, Snail, you can't throw greatest DB of all times to me.
He's a notorious Coug here in the chat. So if it's it doesn't matter whether it's Marcus Trufant or we're talking about Cam Ward this past season at quarterback or
Cam Ward's my quarterback now.
I was hoping he came out, man. That was my 3rd round guy. I wanted him.
Cam Ward's my hurricane quarterback now, I think.
You're going to like him. He's a gunslinger back there. And, these guys in college, they're sometimes you mentioned robotic, which not bad robotic all the time. Sometimes it's everything's clean, mechanics clean. They're just pop, pop, pop. But with this guy, it's, the storm will be upon him and he's still going to let that thing rip from the backside of his ear 25 yards down the field on an out route and just trust it. And he's got the firepower to get it in there, which is impressive. About 6'1", but I mean, kid's a gamer and he'll throw some passes. It'll take your breath away, but
love it.
Don't you still have Cristobal down there?
Yeah. We got the best team the NIL can buy. I don't know about the coaching.
NIL don't cover coaching, Coach. That's the only problem there. Got the
but as far as Marcus Trufant, he should be there, man. From what I remember of Trufant, dog.
He's good, but
lockdown guy. I mean, again, like I'm gonna say this from my favorite DB, Dion. He said there's 2 Hall of Fames. He said there's a Hall of Fame and a Hall of Game. Some of the guys that are not in the Hall of Fame definitely should be in the Hall of Game because Trufant was one of the guys that could lock you down and make your quarterback reads be okay. We going to this side. Unless you got a top tier receiver over there, we ain't throwing a Trufant. He was one of those guys, and those guys are few and far between. You know, obviously Dion, Revis, some other guys, but you can put Trufant's name in there as far as being a guy that you got to locate when you can break the huddle. Yeah,
he was a damn good player, no doubt about that. I would always give him his flowers.
From what I've seen, he's a successful businessman in the area.
Oh, he's doing good. I saw
an interview or something.
Yeah. Yeah, he's from the local Western area, and we take care of our people here. If you're a former Seahawk, you're a former Husky, you're a former Coug, you're good for life there. So yeah, he's doing well. He's doing really well. Garth Knight, thank you for the $5 donation as well. All the donations today. Garth, he says, Zip2 is Raven Nation basically what the F due to the lack of running in the AFC title? Has there been any explanations for not running?
John's explanation was that's kind of where it went.
I hate those.
And some reporter kind of gave him an out and saying, was it because of the 2 long drives? And he was like, yeah, they hit the long drives, and he kind of rolled with it. And so he was like, that's the way the game went. Us people that know football and we don't just watch the ball, we know that's BS.
Why wouldn't he say?
We know the guy's scared.
Is that what it is? It's just that if I give the answer truth, it's that bad of an answer, do you think? Because I do agree. I think that there's a bit of our coaches did the same thing where it's like, why wouldn't you just break down the truth here as to what happened? I mean, it's not.
I felt
We
like
all
he
can
threw
kind of.
Lamar on the bus too.
Yeah, there was a little bit of
He
Lamar.
said that a lot of runs were called and they were checked at the line of scrimmage.
Hmm.
I mean,
Okay.
if he's still passing, you are the head coach. You can tell him to run the darn play as called.
Especially if he's been doing it for a couple of quarters. That's
Right.
when you come back into the guy in the third quarter and you go, okay, now we're going out of half. We got to run this ball, protect our defense a little bit, get control of the clock. Yeah, that's a weak excuse.
Yeah.
I don't like that
His
at all.
headset works just like everybody else.
Yeah.
I know I've been in a situation where I got a little pass happy, and the head coach be like, "Run the ball, coach." It's just that simple.
Is that the words exactly as he uses in the moment, or what would
No,
be what would
no.
give me what would you say with the expletive, but put in expletives in between.
Run the bleeping ball, coach. or you got any bleeping run plays on that sheet?
I can only imagine sometimes when but it happens. Yeah, you're in the flow of the game and you just forget. Oh man, it's been a while since we've run the ball as much. So you do need those reminders. But is the next call a run play, or do you have to kind of like, hey, I'm the offensive coordinator, I'll get to it when that happens?
That next call better be a run play. Unless you and we
With
were
no
kind of
checks?
fast paced. We were kind of fast paced. So sometimes I would kind of get away with calling one because we were like no huddle, no. We were trying to go fast.
Okay.
But I know within the next play or two, I better have a run ready.
Yeah. Do you think that that's starting going to take back into that's always been something that we've been waiting for to come in with the spread, of course. It's some teams peppered in a little bit, but nobody's really, it's not back like the old days, you had with the Bills.
It's health hazard.
Yeah.
Them
Too
pros
many
don't
extra.
want to do that. Too many plays. Them pros won't do that.
Yeah.
Too many
That makes
opportunities
sense.
to get hurt, being tired and whatnot. And then if you do try to do it again, we talked about defensive rules. I mean, to help. That's the one rule that helps the defense. If you sub on offense, no matter how fast you're trying to go, they got to hold the ball up and let the defense sub. That's one of the few things they've done to help the defense. And a lot of defense take advantage of it. They wait to the last minute before they try to sub out. So, and keep in mind when they do that, if your clock run out, it just run out.
Do you have to to make a hurry up offense work? Do you have to keep subbing out the personnel to keep them fresh enough to run the routes and whatnot?
Your outside guys, maybe. Everybody else should be good.
Okay.
Your two outside guys, depending on how you got your offense set up, you might have to sub them out, but everybody else should be good. Unless because if you're getting 2 or 3 yards apart, that ain't really hurting the O-line. What's hurting the O-line if you're getting 30, 40 and they have to run. But you get 30, 40-yard runs, you better be in the red zone.
But you're one to after the 30 or 40-yard run to come back up there and sometimes then catch that defense in the same way of like, we got the momentum, we got it going, bam, come back and now let's hit. But then if they're tired and you want to sub out, then the defense, that's
what happened is you get a 30-yard run and it's holding. And so they done ran down that 30 yards. Now they got to come back because it's holding. That's when you're getting problems. And then you can start getting, pre-snap penalties and all that stuff too.
Yeah. Do you make a call as a coordinator then to give them a play of like, okay, we're just going to run a power A gap run here to give everybody a blow of 45 seconds on this,
or just take the check with me off. Just chill. Just you don't have to tell them that you're slowing down. Just wait and call the play.
Yeah,
I know. Like we get in a 4-minute offense, I don't even change the tempo. I just wait till I give them the play. I just wait till like 15 seconds, then I give them play. So instead of putting in, I just try to put as much of it on me as possible. But I'm talking about high schoolers, not pros.
Yeah. But there's some minor, there is some minor kind of echoes to probably it carrying forward in certain ways in that respect. Thank you though, Garth, for that $5 and also for this $5 donation. Says Zip and Brando's training day consisted of 3 raw eggs and a banana in a blender after 300-yard crab walks. You got it, man.
That ain't far from it.
High knees.
Just add a little heel to it.
Doing that
crab
old football
walk up
one.
that heel.
Yeah. What do we call the one though where you got to flip? You go side to side and you're flipping your hips back and forth. That was the one we used to do back in my day.
Karaoke.
I don't know. Is that what it is? Karaoke.
If you on your feet.
Yeah, on the feet.
Karaoke. Karaoke. Some people call it different, but it's karaoke.
Man, that one was brutal.
I still can do some of that stuff.
I can too, but it hurts. It hurts. It hurts after you're done too. You can't lie about that. In my mind, are you feeling it a little bit more like,
Oh yeah,
oh
most
boy,
definitely. 3,
my
4
hips aren't
days,
supposed to
I'm
do
off.
that no more. That's right. I'll be good for the one day. Just give me the 4 off, and then
Yep.
I'll be fine at that point. Thank you, Garth. Radu, thank you for the $2 donation. It says Michigan defensive coordinator Jesse Minter is the Chargers' new defensive coordinator.
I knew he was leaving. I didn't know he was going to be the DC.
Interesting. A lot of moving parts between all these teams here a little bit with Harbaugh's move, McDonald's move. Boy, you guys have gotten plucked, it sounds like, which is unfortunate too. I kind of feel like McDonald didn't go harder at the coaching staff as kind of a little bit of a favor to Harbaugh, where he's like, okay, I'm already leaving. I'm not going to just, I'll take that and that and
I
that.
did hear this. The guy he wanted, Harbs made the DC.
Oh,
The guy he
okay.
really wanted, Harbs made the DC, and that was Orr.
Mm-hmm.
And so
That makes sense.
obviously Wilson, was got a DC job, I think, before Mike even left. And then when Weaver didn't get the DC job in Baltimore, he went to Miami.
Okay.
Or maybe right before. This happened right around the same time. But I know that Mike wanted Orr. And I think that's why he got the job over Weaver.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's smart. I mean, if Harbaugh, what other route was he going to go? If not, it's back to Wink or something. I mean, there weren't a lot of good. Please, God, no. You don't want no more risky.
Wink need good corners.
He does. Yeah. And that's the thing I was hearing about him within Baltimore is like, as long as the starting corners were out there, it was great. But the second that you had to go to your backup corners, he still wanted to run the crazy hyper attack, hyper aggression, and those backups couldn't roll, and they just got slaughtered.
And Marlowe were healthy and in, we were okay defensively. When Marcus Peters started having his issues with his health, and then it was Marlowe and some random guy, the defense didn't change, and them random guys were getting torched.
Yeah, that's the tough part about wanting to run that scheme is you better stock up and corners are hard to find as it is. They can cover, like, getting two's tough, much less a good slot, much less having them backups on top of it for the depth. It becomes a bit too much to have to. And that's why you maybe lean to have the defenses that we were, McDonald's running in that type where it's okay, still kind of some zone. We'll run some man, but we don't necessarily need this to be right. We can still make it very effective. I've kept you for a little bit of extra time here. Just a couple last questions. Number one, I didn't get a final answer from you on Bobby, which I'm going to press you for. Should
he stay or what was it? Remind me.
Yeah. Well, the question is, does he fit this defense?
Oh, yeah.
Having a guy that might be not as fast as he was in his 20s. Let's say when it would come out of college, like a 4.45 guy. Let's say he's more like 4.65-ish now.
I think because I assumed that he was staying until I went and looked at the sport track thing, and I was thinking fit PQ with him, and you keep that same thing rolling. Well, that's what I was thinking.
I thought as well that what you do is you look at targeting Queen, bring him in, you get your hyper athletic guy next to him who can be kind of his, go get him. I'll be here in the box. And I like with maybe the stack fronts with Bobby, he's a really good blitzer, one of the best blitzing middle linebackers of the sport. And you put him up in that A gap a lot, whether he's going or not. It's just kind of, to me, kind of nice territory to put him in where you get him closer into that box and down there to have some effect and impact.
Yeah, I think he'd be a perfect fit. He can be that guy that kind of does some of the stuff I was telling you Queen would do, and that would keep him more around the line of scrimmage, would kind of protect him in coverage. Obviously, he'd have to drop some, but I'm sure Bobby can spot drop and guard areas. Like, now there might be a problem what we talked about earlier, but for the most part, with the way they get pressured and different ways they get pressure, the ball's coming out quick.
Yeah. Well, that's what
I feel like he could, even if they catch it, Bobby's a sure tackler.
He still is that.
If he tackling him for 2-3 yards, so be it. You give that up.
Yeah.
I think he fit perfect still.
Yeah. No, it's those big plays down the field, Bobby, people are worried about in this defense. And I saw there was times Roquan would go play the middle hash on the cover too, and they would do a little bit of that. But for the most part, he's down there and he'll zip over and take the flat routes away. If it's post snap off the A gap, which Bobby can absolutely, I think, still do that. I guess just last kind of couple questions. What are the weaknesses to be looking for in this defense? What is it that when things aren't going right or don't look, where's the places that can be attacked?
And I don't know if it was a personnel issue for us, but no matter what you came out defensively, we were in nickel. We never really brought in extra linemen, never brought in really extra linebackers. For the most part, no matter what you came out in, except for goal line, obviously, or fourth and short or third and real short, we were in nickel. And so, like the Rams did us, we were susceptible to the run versus the Rams. Now, what I will say is you're probably going to give up yards. So be ready for that.
Mhm.
The thing is, if it works the way, it worked for us, you're going to give up yards, but you're going to have people kicking field goals. You're going to get turnovers. You're going to get sacks. But you're
Mhm.
going to give up yards. Because like once they get into that compressed part of the field, like the 30 on in, where they don't have to defend so far down the field, his defense gets just that much better.
Okay.
But as far as the run, because he don't really change personnel a lot, but he had the bodies to do that. Like he could slide Kyle in to like a third linebacker. And I don't know where Jamal fits in that system, but Jamal could probably do that same type thing and stay in that same personnel, because to me, he's a little linebacker anyway. But
Mhm.
so I mean, it's just because you're gonna be in nickel. You for the most part, you're gonna be in nickel.
Even
And
against 12?
yes. Yes. Like I say,
Is that
he'd
where the
have
run problems came in? Was with
mhm.
it if they go to 12 and then you have them just run on you on 12 and 12 personnel?
That's what the Rams did to us. They went in 12 with and then they had Puka and Cooper,
Cooper.
and they
Yeah.
just or they got in 12 and like it was ace, and they'd have Puka on the wing and fold Puka up under the
Yeah.
tight end, and we just was still in 12. They just outnumbered us. And
Yeah.
the only guess who they left free to tackle? The
The
cornerbacks.
corner. Yeah.
So
That's why I'm worried. That's why I'm worried Tariq, because he just had he's a receiver convert to corner. He's only been playing a couple of years, and it's the place where, some of those guys, I've had buddies that have played that were guys that I've got friends that are former cornerbacks, and of course they hate receivers. They've got that weird, receiver. And they just talk about how just like, weak they can be and just how they go off on these tangents. So that sticks in my mind when my buddies tell me about that stuff, where there's like, where I go, does he got that lack of dog to do it, where he won't get in there and tenaciously because, he's got more of that receiver bit, maybe mentality that does help him to be a corner and ball skills and jump it, but maybe not enough to go up there and put his nose in there. That makes me worried a little bit. Last little donation here from Kelly. Says, thank you, Kelly. Says 3, Be More in Blue Moon Cafe. Where does SIP name from?
So I'm originally from the state on the which side? On my left, where the other side? On this side, I'm originally from that state, and I moved to the other state, and that's where it is.
Okay, there we
That's
go.
how I came to pass. I was looking
Nice.
for a podcast name, and a friend of mine kind of helped me out, and that's what it came from. I moved from one state to the other. That's simply it's real. It's in the name technically. Well, I moved from one state to this city. Put it like that. That's not because Tally is not a state. It's Florida. But
No, it makes sense.
I moved from Mississippi to Tallahassee.
That's definitely an upgrade, I would say, from what I've heard. I haven't lived either, but from what I've been told by people living in the South, they would say that was a jump up to do that. Well, do me a favor, folks. Go over here to SIP2 Tally Films. In fact, you don't even have to look it up on Google. If you just click down the description link section below, you can find, I've got that linked right there. So you click that link down, you can get right over to his channel. Like, let's show him some kindness here. He gave us an hour and a half of his time today. I think it took a couple hours from him during the season. And please do get subscribed to his channel here, as me and him will be definitely chopping again. I'm going to force him back over, or he'll force me over. It is, or one of the way we'll do this. We'll do some draft talk, I'm sure, as we're leading up to that, and discuss a little bit. After all, our teams are looking for the same players. My general manager said it, man, coach. So, I mean, it's on the books. Thank you.
What number do you have in the draft?
Which one? We got 16 right now.
16. Okay.
But it's 16 to 25, and then we're taking Graham Barton or Troy Fontanu or Cooper Bebe. So we're getting our second rounder back from the Leonard Williams trade, going to 25, swooping in front of you guys, because you're going to be looking at Tony's like, no, he's ours. We're doing it. It's our turn this year. You had us last year. Now it's our turn. And that's how we're going to do you. So I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is when we look for really good players, at the same time. And you made some great points. Finish up on that value board thing. You made the great point about this, that it can cause at first blush some anger and some frustration on draft day at times. But that's also, I think, part of the important process to embracing the value structure versus going need, because you have to pick a lane. You can't split your way between the draft. You got to choose what you do. And the benefits end up, for the most part, like I said, there'll be 1 or 2 picks that go, God, but this one we would have. But for the most part, that one's more about, don't take a guy in the second round who just blew his Achilles out. Like that one's more that. Come on, right? I mean,
right.
That was more of a little like, that was not just value. That was also like, you guys,
that was ego.
injured. Yeah, it was ego. That was total ego. So smartly run organization. You do a great channel, man. You covered some great stuff this year with the Ravens. I know it ended out in heartbreak, but you still got a really good team and I think it's still a very bright future moving on. Thank you, man, so much for
No
doing
problem.
this. I really do
Appreciate it.
appreciate you.
Appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me. And I do have a second channel, which is where my Seahawks content will kind of float.
Woo! Let's
Like
go.
I think I already told you this last time. The biggest video on my second channel is a Seahawks video. It's about Tyreek Woolen. I think I called it Tyreek the Freak. It hit over, I want to say 10,000 views. I'm gonna thank
Let's
you guys.
go.
I know y'all found it some kind of way. And I think that might be how Megan found me. I think.
What's the name of that channel again?
More Sip to Tally.
More Sip to Tally. So
Mhm.
get on More Sip to Tally film. Is it More Sip to Tally Films? Just More Sip to
It's
Tally.
More Sip to Tally.
So More Sip to Tally. Get on there. He's going to be doing some Seahawks content on there. All the more reason. I'm telling you, do it. We're some of the most active fan base online, man, when it comes to the film study and all that stuff. So if you do it, they will. It's like Field of Dreams. If you build the videos, they will watch.
Well, they
So
come. They come.
they will come.
Yep.
They will come. So appreciate you so much for letting me pull you in on this time, man. It's always awesome talking to you on this stuff. And sorry we took your coach, but you gave us that. Sounds like by what you're saying, you gave us a real good one. So we feel pretty good about that. All right. Well, you guys have yourself a great night, and you have yourself a great night too, Coach.
Same to you.
Give your wife my best on that too. Tell
Okay.
her thank you for letting me borrow you for the time on it. Tell her I appreciate it.
Will do.
And we'll be back soon, folks. But until the time, we'll give you guys a go Hawks, and I'll let you go ahead and slip in a go Ravens here for you. What do you guys? What's your patent thing?
Not saying who's got it better than us, because I'm tired of that. Just go Ravens.
Beautiful way to end it. Thank you, Coach. Have a good night, folks.